Hi, and welcome to another edition of No Boundaries, the podcast. And this is a new edition. It's an edition where I'm speaking with incredible Black women, brown women, women of color about our identity, about our culture, and about how we move in this world. I want this to be just like with Lulu, with my daughter, open and honest conversations in which we explore all types of questions and see how to strengthen our communal bonds. And I am so excited at the start of Black History Month to have my first guest. It's an incredible woman who's slowly but surely through texting is becoming a friend of mine. Her name is Torya Beard. She's an incredible Broadway performer. She's a Broadway dancer, a director. She's also an amazing educator. Torya, thank you so much for being my first guest.
Yay. Thank you for having me. I'm so honored. Thank you so much.
No,
I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so honored. I mean, Broadway director, Broadway performer, Broadway dancer. You've been, I think, like in The Lion King as one of the first, the first original cast,
Yeah.
right? So,
No,
okay.
no, no. Not in the original cast, but it was my first my first Broadway show.
Oh, your first Broadway
So,
show. Yes.
yeah. The show opened, I think the show opened in 97, I think, if I got that right. And I started in 2001.
2001. Okay, no, so not,
Mhm.
I auditioned in 97 and it was a nightmare. But anyway, we're going to talk about your work, your career as well, but also, of course, about our culture, about what we have in
Mhm.
common, how we see difference. I'm just so happy that you have made, I know you have a very busy schedule, that you made time for this. As I want to start, because this is, we're the first Monday of Black History Month.
Mhm.
What does Black History Month mean to you?
Mm. Yes, happy Black History Month.
Happy Black History.
Um, it means, I think I know for a fact that Black History Month to me is a time for us to celebrate each other, to hopefully, inspire our non-Black friends and sometimes family members to learn more, to take time to learn more about Black people in history, Black people around you, the accomplishments of people's family members, and not just accomplishments, but just what it is about us that makes us unique, that makes us move through the world the way we do, that gives us the joy and the power that we have, and also to call on our ancestors. That is very important to me. Um, yeah, I think it's just a time for hopefully for people to just pause and say, I'm going to take in this information, and
Yeah.
I'm going to uplift the other people around me, that are that the other Black folks around me.
Yes, and I mean, for me, being black but being raised in Europe, for me, black culture, American black culture, African American culture has been always such a beacon, such a light. When I had no one else who looked like me in a very white environment, at
Mm,
least I could, see on television, and it was before the internet, but
yeah.
see people who look like me thrive, be successful, beautiful, intellectual. I mean, yeah, the first woman I read about, was not Bell, it was, well, Bell Hooks. I read
Mm,
as a young woman, and of course Audre Lorde. So that was my first foray in
mm,
so African American culture means a lot to us. Also, Black people in Europe means a lot to us.
mm.
Very important. Yeah,
So thank you for saying that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
being raised in a Black household, right?
Hmm.
Was that also a month that you, in your family, in your childhood or youth, celebrated, talked about?
We didn't celebrate it in our household, I don't think. It wasn't like a part of the conversation, but I do remember once a year there was always like we learned about the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
And I am not sure if that happened during what has become Black History Month or during what has become Martin Luther King Day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can't remember exactly when it happened in the year, but I do remember that. And I do remember that all through elementary school, And mostly in elementary school, maybe in middle school too. Like, it was very, my education about African American history was very compartmentalized to
Mm.
the civil rights movement, and it
Ah,
happened once a year.
yeah.
That is what I remember.
Yeah. And if we talk about your family, I want to take us back to your childhood.
Yeah.
How was blackness or being African American, your culture, how was that how was that a factor in your house? I mean, you are where you are, but was that something that was how was it spoken about? How was it part of you of growing up? What
Mm.
do you remember from the lessons or the conversations you've had?
Hmm. Well, I'll say I'm from Detroit, Michigan,
Hmm.
which was, I mean, it was mostly black people living there.
Yeah.
So I obviously I had interactions with white people from, the beginning of, the beginning of my time, but I was just around black people all the time. So, and on my mother's side, everybody's from the South. They're all from Tennessee, and they were just very, um, how should I say it? Authentic people who loved to party, loved to be together, loved to gather. And I don't know that we actually had conversations about being black. I remember my mother telling me stories about, her experience of the civil rights movement about that time and how she wanted to be out in the streets. And she was very, as a young person. Um, I know my grandfather had some milestones, like, he was the first, at least as far as we knew, it was what we were told was that he was the first black person to hold the position he had in his company.
Mm.
He did marketing, and at those times, I think things came up. My
Yeah.
godmother continues to be a successful or recently retired attorney. And so we would have conversations about that around like sort of like accomplishments or milestones or things like that. But I felt like our blackness was like reinforced by everything around us. And the conversations were more about how to navigate the world,
Hmm.
how
Hmm.
to be as true to ourselves as possible in different circumstances and situations. Um, and it wasn't until I went to college, I think, that I mean, in high school, my high school was more diverse than my elementary and middle schools because by then you start busing and it's just like a little bit different geographically, like different neighborhoods. But I had done some exchange programs, I had gone to like another college for like summer programs, and then I started to understand that when people see me, when they look at me, it's kind of like you know who you are, you know how you feel inside, and then you're confronted sometimes with the way you see yourself through somebody else's eyes,
Yeah.
which is as other or different or curiosity, exoticism, like all of those things. It's like
Yeah.
I I think I'm like a very interesting person and I have a great
Yes.
personality. However, sometimes I'm like, I don't think this person is interested in me because of those traits. I think they're
Mm.
interested in me because they have not had many interactions with other people that look like me, you
I
know.
understand. And is that
Um,
something you're like, did your parents or your mom have like the talk with you? Like, because it sounds like you lived in a black and mixed neighborhood school, so it was very safe. But when you
uh-huh.
started venturing out, like when you went to your first college program somewhere else, left the house, left your environment for a while, did your parents or your godmother, your mom, or the women sit you down?
Yeah, I think it was more when I went to college.
Yeah. So how can you tell me
Yes.
what were the lessons then, or what does it take us to that conversation? Because, for instance, I remember the first time I saw through my grandmother's eyes, who's white, my mother's stepmother, by the way. I saw in her eyes when a boy said something nasty to me, and I saw in her eyes sort of like a pity for me. That's the
Mm,
first time I realized, oh, it's not just that I'm pretty and I look like my dad, because that was always said, you're so beautiful, you look so much like your dad, was very positive. I saw there's also something negative about it, and I saw it in the eyes of
Mm.
my grandmother. Is there something you remember, like,
Yeah, I mean, I went to the same college that my godmother did her undergraduate education at, and so she was like, when you go, you're gonna notice certain things. You know, you're going to have certain interactions. You are going to meet and have to live with and coexist with many people that come from very different backgrounds. And it's not, I'm not, she's like, I'm not telling you this to make you feel afraid or anything like that. I just want you to be prepared.
wow.
Because, and a lot of that, I mean, it had to do with ethnicity, race and all of that stuff, but it also had to do with economic status. Like I grew up, I had a very happy childhood. I never thought I was poor. I never thought about money. I just knew that we lived our lives, we had a great time and all of that, right? And then I was like, oh, I'm when I got to college, I was like, oh, I'm poor. It was
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Hmm.
oh, okay, now I understand that it's not just and I think in so many ways it's hard to talk about race in this country without talking about economics, without talking about access to opportunities to make money, without access to opportunities to engage in academia if you so choose. Yeah, and so it was an all encompassing conversation just
Yeah.
about difference in general. And I think aside from the physical differences that we all have based on, our appearances, there is also a very visible, sometimes very visible indicators of where you are on the social or economic ladder. And so the conversation was about that as well.
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful and so important, especially when you go out in the world as a young, young, beautiful woman. But, and also, again, you're also a woman. So how did
Mm.
that also factor in, being a woman, leaving on your own? Is that also something that was discussed with your godmother and your
Mm.
mother, the other women, the other black women in your
Yeah.
life?
Well, my mother was like my best friend. Like for sure. Like we talked about everything, every little thing. I never really felt like I had to hide anything from her, even during those tumultuous teen years. And my grandmother too. I was very, very close with my grandmother who passed away very early, like while I was still in college. And so I feel like the lessons were always coming. It wasn't really, I felt so now looking back, I felt so held by the women in my life, by my family members, and also like they made me feel like there was nothing I couldn't do. Let's put it like that. Like there was nothing that I could aspire to that I did not have the ability to achieve for myself.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I feel like I was always affirmed by my mother when I stood up for myself in high school or when I wanted to fight a grade or, with a boyfriend or a friend group or whatever it was, when I felt like I was being treated unfairly. She was like, run it down, explain it to me. Okay, cool. Yes, you're right. You're wrong. Sometimes, I remember, I remember going to her and I was like, this person and that person and I don't like this and that and she said this and he said that and she was like at a certain point if everybody around you is wrong and you're the only person that's right, you need to look at yourself.
Oh,
And I was like, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's
So I had
beautiful.
to learn too to like to hold myself accountable, which is very important, so I felt like I had the the social skills, the social ability to like handle myself.
Wow.
I also, was very scrappy growing up. My brothers and my aunts more scrappy than me, but I kind of like use words to navigate, relationships, whereas some people use more forceful measures. But I felt like I know people have my back. Let's put it like that. You can
Wow.
try it if you want to. However,
Yeah.
Detroit is 45 minutes away. So, you
Wow.
know,
Yeah. Yeah. Detroit
so
girl.
yeah. So I just was like, I felt like I had the skills, but I felt confident going. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
And thankfully I went through a program it was called a bridge program. So like I went to college in the summer. I with other people from Detroit and other places around the country, I guess, but maybe it was just Detroit. And I got to know all of the people in the program. I got to take classes. I got to sort of like get acclimated. So when the school year started in the fall, when like thousands of people arrived on campus, I already had a friend group. I already knew my way around campus. And those friends that I made in that program have been my friends,
Oh. And were they
for,
mostly black?
yeah, yeah, they were
That's
all black.
that's fantastic. And that, okay, I don't want to talk too much about, politics and about this time, but that all, that is so important because it's not only about getting a chance. No, it's also about getting the tools to handle every opportunity you get, right? And if
Yeah,
society doesn't support you in that, then, you have very big shoes to fill, like, your own bootstraps. That's like a nice, sounds beautiful, but it doesn't work that way if you don't also learn the tools,
yeah,
right? And of
yeah.
course, the college also has to take their responsibility, and that is so important.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think this is what, and maybe this is why, because that was a formative experience for me. Because I had all of those friends, and then we were scattered all over the campus, right, in all different dorms. And so I just felt supported, like that group, they were my home. But when
yeah.
I went to my dance classes, for most of the time I was there, I was the only Black person in the dance department.
Oh
So
wow.
then I was not prepared for that feeling of, I don't know, I didn't feel isolated, but it was just sort of lonely.
Of course.
I didn't dwell on it too much. However, it was there I felt like I started to waver a little bit because speaking about like body composition
Mhm.
and how my body type, the way my muscles and everything was set up was very different from most of the other people that I was dancing alongside, you know? And so then I started to be like, oh, I need to lose weight. I need to go on a diet. I need to, trying to, I don't know, fit in, so to
For
speak,
force force your body to have a different shape
Yeah.
and not being
Yeah.
celebrated. If I hear that correctly, your body wasn't celebrated by the way it was as a beautiful dancer. It wasn't taken in account.
I don't even know that it was coming from outside, but I think what I've learned is to separate sameness from competitive or value.
Yeah.
I realized after that year, which was my first year, I don't have to look like everybody else to be as good or better than other people, right? It's not about what we look like, but I think when I was thrust into an environment where I was the only person that looked like me, I was like, "Oh, maybe I need to look more like everybody else." Maybe it's something I'm doing and not fully understanding that my genetic makeup, was passed down to me and so was theirs. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's not better or worse, it's different, but it doesn't have anything to do with my dancing.
And how, so for young, because I have, because of Lulu, I have beautiful young listeners as well. How did you at such a young age realize and make that realization? Do you remember that? And can you share that for girls who are listening now,
Mm.
who are going through that? Because it's so beautiful what you say you didn't, first you doubted yourself and then you realized, no. Well, how did you make that click? Because that is such an important lesson. I think for all women, but
Yeah.
especially for women who look like us, who are, in a quote unquote white or whatever kind of field where people don't look like them.
Yeah. I think there are a couple of things. One, my friends. I
Okay.
talked to my friends, and I was
You
like, oh,
opened
I
up.
got to do
You
this.
were,
I got to do that.
yeah.
Yeah. And they were like, girl, you're crazy. No, you don't. You're fine. And I think the other part of it, and I can't remember, it was probably another friend or one of my roommates that helped me to also understand. When I was growing up, it was like almost every meal I had was prepared at home, except for like lunch when I went to school. And if we went, it was a special occasion and we would go out to eat, or like a fun time where we would get takeout or whatever, but it was rare. And then I went to college and I'm eating like this food that is designed to, I don't know, fuel us all day. And it's like a bunch of carbs and you can eat whatever you want. And it's like always food and, you're just eating. And so it just so happened, and they do talk about like the freshman 15 or whatever it is, like when you first go to school and you gain weight. That was not clicking to me. I used to call my grandmother, like we had a little date to talk about the soap operas because I used to watch the soap operas with her, and I would call to catch up because obviously I couldn't watch them. And I think I may have mentioned it to her too. And everybody kind of said the same thing. They're like, don't really worry about it. Don't worry about that. Just focus on your dancing. And sure enough, over time, when I started to understand how my diet was impacting the way I looked, and also focusing more on my skills, my technique, really applying myself in those classes, no matter what I thought I looked like, because we also know that feelings aren't facts. And sometimes I think something happens in your brain. You look at yourself in the mirror and you're not seeing what everybody else is seeing very often. Sometimes, at least that's how I
Yeah.
think, that how I experienced it. So I think it was really, really talking to my friends who were not dancers. I didn't have any friends that were dancers. I only had friends that were majoring in everything else. So thank God they were able to give me some grounding. You know what I mean?
That's amazing. I think it's so beautiful what you say. And I hope that, listeners, and because I think that counts for every age, we're maybe so, sometimes we think it's better to suffer alone, right? We've been conditioned to suffer on your own and just handle it. And I think it's so beautiful that you were vulnerable and opened up to your friends and to your grandmother, and that they could believe in you and tell you, no, that is so important. And plus, yeah, also then, how do you say, aligning that to looking at yourself, like what you said, feelings, facts over feelings. Whatever you feel is not always fact. Those are incredible lessons, so young. And especially, I guess, as a dancer, that is so important that you learned that so young, because you went into a field that is extremely competitive. A lot also is about looks, right? And a lot is also about being liked and being a certain type and being right. Because I was not a dancer, but I danced. And I was like, how do girls, women survive? So you have to you have to be really strong and sure of yourself to survive that harsh environment.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, like, I loved it. Like, I could not imagine.
Yeah.
I could not imagine a life without dancing. Like,
Wow.
it was what I felt like I was meant to do. And so even though I had some of these other struggles briefly, or however long, I still had my eyes so fixed on the prize. I was like, I want to be a great dancer. And so I did truly find joy in the pursuit of the skill, and the expression of it all. I loved it. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, without your insecurity. Yeah, that's so beautiful that you could, like you said, compartmentalize, right? Whatever ideas, thoughts, whatever we have, and you could know facts over feelings. And I love doing
Hmm.
this. Yeah, that joy.
Hmm.
Is that something?
Yeah.
Is that something that you got from your grandmother, mom, that was always part of you? Is it something you had to learn, or that joy, that wanting to do
Um,
this? Because you're not from an artistic family, are you?
well, yes, my father, all while I was growing up, he's a musician. He had a band, like
Yeah.
all while I was growing up. And his sister is a singer, beautiful singer. She was
Mm.
in like a very popular vocal group in Detroit when I was growing up. And I think she had done some plays too. I remember seeing her do some plays. But other than that, no, I did not grow up I'm not from like a family of artists, people who make a living, performing or anything like that. I'm trying to figure out how I was very, very young, and my mother was always, I mean, not always, but for a lot of my life. She was in college. She was pursuing some kind of degree.
Wow.
And one of her professors had a dance studio randomly or something, or I don't know. But she put me in the studio, and she gave me this there was a little shoebox. I don't know if people, I guess they still do, but it was like a box where you put your ballet shoes, you put your tights. It was like a little blue box, and it had like a picture of a ballerina on point on the front of it. And I remember just staring at that picture over and over. I had never seen a ballet. I had never heard, I don't think I had ever even heard like classical music or anything like that. But my imagination, it was like if it could be a film, is like my imagination, my eyes like bore into that photo, and then I saw whatever. It took me
Yeah.
into another world. And from the moment I stepped into that dance class, I was just obsessed. I was obsessed with it.
Wow.
And
That
this was maybe, I don't know how old I was. Maybe I wish I'll probably, I'll send you a couple of pictures when I was young.
yes,
I was
great. Yeah.
older, but I think maybe I was maybe like 4 or 5,
That's
maybe.
so, yeah, oh, that's
I was
you.
a little one.
Yeah, that's time also to plug our, because I always make a newsletter with links of articles what we talk about. So it'd be nice to have like a picture in the newsletter. Yeah.
I
So
wish I
yeah,
had a picture of that box. I don't have
yeah.
it.
Oh, well, but you remember it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
So what I also wanted to say, what I find so important, because what you said about your childhood, having that conversation with your godmother, we often think, that yeah, maybe we shouldn't rock the boat, not talk about color or about it, right?
Oh,
Or let I don't want my child to feel that the world is against them or something. But research shows that having those conversations help. So
yeah.
you so I just want to say to parents out there, don't be afraid, being realistic. So, it's not or either or, but giving like with you, like love and support, and that you can do anything you want to do, but also being realistic about challenges. Because yeah, we are women, and we
Hmm.
are women of color, and we are Black women in that particular society. That doesn't ruin the dream, right? It makes you
Yeah.
stronger. So I just want to tell parents or guardians who work with young people, don't be afraid to have their uncomfortable conversations. It strengthens next to the love. It's not about, fear. It's about being realistic, and
Yeah.
also giving the opportunity and the dream. And like you said, that you always knew, I can do whatever I want.
Hmm.
Maybe not be the same, maybe not be as easy, but I can. I think that
Yeah.
is so unique. That's so beautiful. And how
Yeah.
did that, so when you graduated from college, you did, your education as dancer, then you started your career. So how
Hmm.
then, again, you had to navigate,
Hmm.
what kind of dancer did you want, or did you like want to be a Black dancer? Did you see yourself as just a dancer? How did that then, being a woman and a dancer, it's still a male dominated world, right? How did
Yeah.
that,
Yeah. In some
yeah,
ways, yeah.
how was that journey?
How was it? It was great. I didn't say I want to be a Black dancer, but a lot of the people I looked up, I mean, the people I was looking up to, the people I was seeing on television, the things that were inspiring me, they were all Black people, but I was also inspired by people that weren't Black. Let me tell you, I will watch Staying Alive today. I will watch Dirty Dancing today, but, I was obsessed with like Fame, and I loved Debbie Allen, and
Yeah.
there was just so many. I loved every time I saw anybody dancing, I was just like, yeah, it's amazing, whether it was jazz, whatever. But
And
when
classical
I
ballet, how was your first foray into when you saw like a first big classical ballet
um
piece?
this is actually kind of like shocking to say, but I did not see a lot of dance in real life. I didn't. The first time I saw Alvin Ailey was a DVD that one of my teachers, one of my professors gave me, who had been in Ailey, who came later. So then I had somebody, she was my mentor. Her name was Linda Spriggs, and she was a Black woman. And I was like, yes. And she had been in the Ailey company, but I didn't see Ailey in person until I was a professional. And I don't even remember the first ballet I saw in person. It may have been here.
In New York
like
City,
in New
right?
York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lincoln Center. Yeah.
Though ballet, the idea of ballet was it really inspired me as a very young child. As I grew up and I started to think about expression more holistically because one of my best friends was a filmmaker and a theater director, theater writer, one of my very close friends in college. So I started doing his musicals.
Hmm.
He has recently departed us, so I'm going to say his name, Rod Gales, OBC. Um, and so I was like, oh, I like all of it. I like theater. I like performing. I like telling stories. So I had auditioned for a dance company in Denver. It was called Cleo Parker Robinson Dance, and I got in and I went there, and it was a black dance company. And then I found out there's like a whole network of black dance companies that I didn't know existed. Um, and I was so enamored by all of the choreographers, all of the dancers, like everything about it. I was like, this is where I want to be, telling these stories of our experience in this country mostly, but some not in this country, It was great. And so no, I didn't say I want to be a black dancer or I just knew I was a black person that danced, but
Hmm. Yeah.
being having that experience and it was so um how should I say it? Like there is something about like when we go back to the idea of Black History Month, like maybe I didn't answer that in the best way, but there's something about our culture, the culture of how not I'm not speaking of culture as in like music and dance and art and stuff like that. I'm thinking about the way we commune with each other, how our stories were passed down to us, how our small family histories were passed down to us, how we party together, how we grieve and mourn together. That is what makes us who we are. So when people say for the culture, that is what we mean. We don't mean for this song. Do you know what I mean? And I
I, yeah.
think there's something about the culture that is like putting on a warm blanket. It is like
Yes.
going back to your childhood home. And when I went to Cleo's company, it was very far away. I had never been really that many places. My father's family, some of them had moved to California. So I had gone to Oakland and Tahoe like once or twice as a young person with my grandmother, but I had never been in any place else that we didn't drive to.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to Denver, Colorado, which felt
Yeah.
like a different world to me. And
And pretty white,
Cleo,
you would think, right?
not really. I mean, you would think, but
Yeah.
it
You,
wasn't, not Denver. Yeah, I was very surprised. But I mean, it was, but it wasn't. It was very diverse too. And we were in like a very black neighborhood, but I had many conversations with Cleo after I passed the dance call, right? After she decided because she's like, I want to get to know you before
oh,
make
yeah.
this investment.
She's the
I want to know
director
who
of
you
the company.
are.
She's the director of
Yes.
the company, choreographer. Yeah.
Yes. So I had many conversations with her and I was like, I just love the vibes, right? So then she said, I'm going to find you a place to live. You're going to pair up with somebody that's already in the company, and I'm going to pay for you to live for your first month and while you get yourself set up. And I was just like, yeah. And so from that experience, it's like if you set up, I do not believe that every time you work in a group as an artist, you automatically become family. I don't believe that. Sometimes
Mhm.
you are coworkers.
Yeah.
Very,
Yeah.
very often you are.
Yeah.
However, if you look at a model of a family and how people work around each other, how people care for each other, how you share responsibilities, accountability, and support, I think it works, right? And
Yeah.
that is how Cleo set up her company. And so everybody that came in to work with us was sort of like brought into something that was established, that was moving organically already. And so
Yeah.
everything just felt like it was layering one lesson, one, I don't know, step on the growth ladder, everything was layering on top. Meanwhile, I'm making these like incredible relationships with the people I'm dancing with. So I was like, this is what I want to do. Before, all I knew was I wanted to be good enough to do whatever I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then when I found that, and so I went from, I ended up dancing in Black dance companies,
May,
like many of them. Yeah.
You know, it's so beautiful what you say because my dad is from West Africa, from Cameroon, and
Hmm.
the people he's from is called the Bakosi. That's like from the Bantu people, and
Uh-huh.
that's like really like main West African on the equator group. There's a big chance that a lot of African Americans, come from Bantu because there are in Nigeria, even I think in Benin, Ghana. It's like a big group,
Mm.
and five main groups, and we are one of them. And what's so important in that group, especially the people where my dad is from, Bakosi, is community. So
Mm.
community, it's not about individualism. It's about a communal society, how the community decides together what's best. And it's not about what's best for me, but like it's how do our children grow from this? That's one of the
Hmm.
main principles and philosophies of that culture, right? What's
Mm.
best for our next generation? How do we decide? So if there's arguments or if somebody is, take something or wants something, they, especially in the olden days, they would talk all day, all night until they would all kind of agree what's best for the next generation, for the kids who are
Mm.
looking at us. So it's so beautiful to hear you tell that story, how Leo, I'll connect you to someone who's already there. I'll make sure the first month you're okay. That's right. Yeah, community,
Hmm.
that real
Hmm.
communal feeling, which people can learn from us. I mean,
Yeah.
and yeah, people don't want to learn, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful that, and you see that, yeah, that is, you can combine it with artistic quality. Because was that also because, like I said, dancing can be so competitive, but how was it in that group? So it sounds like everybody, it was okay. There was not like scary competition like you see in horrible movies, or was that
No.
no, then you would talk about it if something like that would happen, or what was the difference compared to like
Um,
classical, like the horror stories we see about dance?
yeah. I mean, I imagine that some of those things that does exist, right? Nobody, I mean, I'm sure people didn't make those, most stories have a root of a kernel of truth, right, at the core. But it wasn't my experience because this is a thought that came to me today. If you come from love, right? If you are loved, then you know how to love other people, right? And you know what that feels like. And you want to kind of like be there. And so when I got there, the woman that the company member that she housed me with, that I was able to live with for that first month, is still one of my dearest friends today. And if you connect with people and you talk to people, you commune with people. One of the dancers that came, I think she came in with me. I met in a training program, the summer program, the American Dance Festival. So I already knew her beforehand. It's like I don't have anything against these people, and we're not fighting. Like we're all in the company already. So like what do we yes, maybe different choreographers come in and pick maybe they didn't pick me. Maybe they when they give us the class and they see the dancers, they may say, "Oh, this person is best for this thing that I'm going to choreograph." Somebody else might come and not pick that person and may pick me. So that that was basically the most, I don't know how to describe it. Like
Competition.
it didn't feel
No,
stressful and it wasn't competitive.
no.
It's kind of like this is the way you dance. This is the way
And
you
you
dance
were
right now.
No, and what I hear you is you were all loved. You all felt we're part of the company. We have our place.
Yeah.
We're loved. We're valued.
Yeah. And even if, I mean, and there are people, and here's the thing that I feel like is missing from some of those stories, those horror stories. There were people that were better than me. Had more experience than I did. They could pick up faster or they were stronger,
Yeah.
And so my only competition is with myself because I'm like, oh, I'm learning. Okay, I want to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, this is where I need to improve. Or you have a friends, I had a really close friend. He was like my personal, like coach. And he was like, you're great. Just do this, do that, work on this. We would help each other. And
Yeah.
so I think I never felt that. I'm not going to say nobody felt it. I didn't.
No, it's
And
fantastic. It's
in every company I was in, and I was in a number of companies,
yeah.
I never felt that way. I never felt like I had to compete. Like I'm still friends with most of the people, really good friends with most of the people I've danced with. Um, but
Beautiful.
yeah, maybe it was just where I danced. Because also I feel like my art, my talent that's my value. That is something I had. That is my currency.
Yeah.
And I don't want to just throw it around willy-nilly. Like if
Mm.
this environment is toxic, I don't want to be in it, you know,
Yeah.
because I'm actually bringing something to it. I'm not an empty vessel just waiting for any experience to fill me up. Do you know what I mean?
I know, and
So,
but that's so beautiful what you're saying. But how, again, that's another beautiful lesson I want our listeners and watchers to learn from you. How do you do that? Because everybody wants to be in the arts,
yeah.
Weren't you afraid then to not work? How did you align that with like, yeah, but if I don't say yes, if I don't, if I don't accept that this director is horrible to me, I won't work again.
Mm,
So how,
mm.
teach us how because you always had work, so you were so in line, I guess, with what you were saying that it
Yeah.
was okay because you found the right job then for you. Or yeah, I'm speaking.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
I always worked, and now I guess as this conversation goes on, more of those stories are being revealed, right? When you asked about the stories, it's hard to like think back to all of the conversations I had with my elders or mentors, but I had a lot of conversations about that. Like my mother, don't let anybody mistreat you. Do you know what I mean? It's like, no, you're not here for that, And a lot of teachers, mentors, like just saying, ultimately, another part of it that I haven't talked about yet is spirituality and
Mhm.
spiritual grounding, spiritual knowing. Um, a lot of the work I, was fortunate enough to learn and to perform in these Black dance companies has a spiritual grounding, has a spiritual element, has the idea. I was always in ensembles. That's important to say. For
Mhm.
me, it's just like I can like have a tear right now because
Mm.
the feeling of being so in sync with other people
Yeah.
where it's like we are breathing together. I know this person over here is about to move, even though I'm not looking at them, and we move together. It's a beautiful thing to me. And so
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I think I don't, I knew from a young age if it's not right for me spiritually, if it's not right for me physically, if I feel like I'm being abused or the energy is off, I'm good because I'll be fine. I'll find another job or I won't dance for a while or I'll do something else. I had um so many jobs. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't just dancing, for years and years and years straight without doing other work. I worked as a temp. I worked in restaurants. Not so great. I was not so great at it, but I did it. I worked in retail a lot, a lot, a lot. I just started. I was also very, very interested in music. I was very interested in pop culture, like what makes things click, like why do people like certain things over other things. So I had a lot of interests.
Yeah.
I could funnel those interests in to support my dancing
Mhm.
or my art, whatever I happen to be doing. And I could also like dive into those interests aside from performing. And I
Mhm.
was very happy doing that. So I felt like I know how to get a job. I know how to get a job. So I'm going to keep this to myself if you intend to cause me harm and I'm going to go get a job. That's kind of like how I felt about it. Um,
But that is so important that you had that, open, like that spirituality of abundance, like there's enough, right? There's enough for
Yeah.
all of us, and there's
Yeah.
also enough for me. And there's also enough time. If it's not today or not this year, next year or
Yeah.
tomorrow or 2 years or five, it's okay. It's there. And we are, I'm so happy that you're saying this, that we talk about that, because that's not often how, not a lot of women, especially not, I think, women of color, black women, feel that society will treat us, right? But it's still, we have that in us, and we
Hmm.
have to explore it and work that muscle, that there is
Yeah.
enough, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's, um, you know, I a lot of like sayings are coming up, you know, that we say to each other, we being like black women, black people in general, like go where you're loved, you know, go where you feel, go where you're wanted, you know.
Yeah,
Um, Thinking a lot about reciprocal energy sharing
yeah,
and things like that. And I also like to create my own things, you know? And so maybe part of me felt like, well, when I feel like I've amassed enough, you know, when I have enough information here and in my body and in my spirit, I'll be able to make my own thing too. And I want to, the things, I'm not going to say it was like, what's the word I'm looking for? A utopian situation in every company at every time. There were challenges, there were frustrations, you know, there were things that was like, oh, I wouldn't do it like that, or that kind of pissed me off. However, I n- wanted the experience of bringing artists into a room to see, well, is there a way to like not have that sharp edge? You know, if you know 80% of this is great, but that 20%, I have a little trauma from that. You know, how can we try? How can I have been years and years and years of thinking, you know, when I work with people, how can I take all of the things that were so beautiful about those experiences and sort of like dream into being ways to avoid those little trauma points, you know, and it's not it's not a science, it's not perfect, but um I feel like you just made me like put this all together
yeah.
because my piece around not engaging in not wanting to be in harmful environments has
Hmm.
actually supported my ideas and like my methodology around engaging with artists myself, you know. But
Yeah.
I would never have pieced that
No,
together
but
without
can
this
you,
talk right
but
now.
yeah, but now that we're analyzing it, can you speak more on that? Because okay, so what is your theory, or what is your practice, or what is your method?
One of the companies I was in was led by Ronald K. Brown. The company is called Evidence, a dance company. And we used to do check-ins every so often. You know, if the energy was feeling funky or I don't know, if there was anything was off, you know, we would do a check-in. It wasn't like every all the time. But I found those conversations kind of like those clearing the air conversations were so valuable. And it was like there was something it's even just sitting in silence with a group of people all thinking and figuring out like how do we want to navigate this conversation, how do we want to express ourselves with an ethic of care
Yeah.
so that we're not harming each other like blaming each other or whatever. And it that taught me a lot about valuing what the artists bring as humans, not
Mm,
just as like bodies or voices or you know whatever it is, skills, but as human beings, because um, if you can really value the intellect, the experiences, and the offerings people have about how they feel comfortable, about how they feel like they can do their best work in the space, then they're kind of, you know, a lot of your work is done to a certain extent, right? Because people can be their best selves. You know, they can express fully. They don't have to self edit. They don't have to work up to being free enough to XYZ. You know,
yeah.
they don't have to feel like they're in competition or auditioning for a whole rehearsal process. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's kind of like part of it, you know?
Beautiful. Again, it also sounds like the West African, communal tradition of having that conversation, even if it takes all night. And it doesn't have to happen every week, but when it comes up, we sit down and we talk.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's beautiful. Wow. And so then, how did you, I don't know if that was before or after, how did you bring all that to Broadway, which is like one of the most, you would like, it's the world stage. And the stakes are so high. How did that help? Yeah, how did that support you? How did it make you do being in such a big, huge musical as The Lion King?
Yeah, well, I had friends who got into the show before me. So I had people, I already had people there. Um, it was different for me because I wasn't a singer. Like I had like studied acting to a certain degree. I had done plays, I was more comfortable with that. But the singing, like I had been in the choir, in church, and I would sing a lot, but I was very nervous about that aspect of it. But the dancing, though very challenging, was like sporadic in the show. It wasn't like doing a full dance concert, for 2 hours when you're in on the stage the whole time, or hour and a half. It was intimidating because there's always a bit of fear around the unknown. Like I didn't have a point of reference for it. So I was like, oh, am I going to be good at it? How's it
Oh
going to
yeah, yeah.
go? But once
And
I
the
started,
singing. Yeah.
once I started learning the choreography, I felt so at home because I knew the choreographer, Garth Fagan. I knew his work. I had seen his company. And it was modern dance, which is what I had spent my whole career doing. And I was like, yes, how did I end up in a Broadway show that, has modern dance? At that time, I felt like, wow, this is like such a gift. Um, but again, very similar to my other experiences, there it was just more people, but the community aspect of it all, everybody was so supportive. Everybody was so, like, I don't know, welcoming. It was so much fun. It
I mean,
was
it
so
must
much
be
fun.
it must be so incredible because we spoke, when we had our pre-conversation, like in the Netherlands, where I also performed a lot, also in musicals, you tour all the time, right? But
Hmm.
it must be so beautiful and communal about Broadway that that's sort of like your second home, right? You're at your dressing
Yes.
room with the same people, and you see each other every day, and you go out.
Yeah.
It's like you're home away from home in the city you live in, so it's so nice. You can, that
Hmm.
must have been so incredible that you really built this life together.
Yeah. And learned a lot from, it's like the actors in the show, the singers in the show, the other dancers in the show, the South African artists in the show. I just learned so much from everybody, unrelated and related to the show. You know what I mean? And I felt like I'm becoming more of like a citizen of the world, by getting to know these people,
Yeah.
and what, like, kind of like what brought us all together, what their paths were, understanding like what other kind of work they had done. Some people had done like so many Broadway shows before, getting an opportunity to sort of like read lines with people before their auditions. And there was just so many things to it. I felt like I started to see myself more as an artist
Mm,
as opposed to a dancer. Do you know what I mean?
yes. And
Um,
how many? Did you play one part, or because you did it for a long period, right? You played different
yeah.
parts, so you could also develop.
Okay. So for 7 years, I was a swing. And a
So you
dance
did
caster.
everything.
I did all of the female dancers, and I
Wow.
covered Sarabi, who was one of the singers that was Simba's mother. And I had to learn um, other parts. I had to learn like Nala, young Nala, adult Nala. So in order to be able to teach it, and um, all of the female ensemble tracking. So I had to teach all of that.
Wow.
And there was some kind of like running sheet about how many people I put in during my time there. It was a lot of people. which was also really great. I think it was instrumental in like keeping me inspired, which is one of the reasons that I was able to stay so long, because
Yeah.
every time you put somebody new in, whether it's an adult actor or a child actor, you are recommitting to the story, reconnecting to the story. And it's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I did that for 7 years.
So sorry, but as a swing, how many shows a week would you do?
It varied. Sometimes I would do all 8 if somebody was on vacation.
Yeah.
There were other swings. So like most times they would split the week between the swings. So say 4 and 4,
Yeah. At least four or
some,
five shows a week. Yeah.
yeah. And then some weeks, not at all. It depended a lot, but suffice it to say, I performed a lot.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
performed a lot. It was a rare week that I didn't perform at all, but those weeks did happen.
Which was also
So,
nice. Yeah.
huh?
Which must also have been nice to have like a little week off.
Yeah, for sure. Especially as a dance captain, because then you can watch and, take notes and clean up the book, the documentation, make sure everything is fresh. It was helpful. I got a chance to like roam around and like learn more about the costume maintenance and the puppet maintenance and just get to know people more, because I wasn't always on stage, which was really valuable.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a beautiful experience. So much fun. So much fun.
And then after 7 years, you got like a one part or
No, I became sort of like a swing for different companies. So they would just call me whenever, like, say, if somebody needed to go on a medical leave, which happens, or whatever, for whatever reason, if people have to be out of the show for an extended period of time, I would go, or 2 weeks or whatever, So I would fill in on Broadway, I would fill in on tour.
oh
And
no.
sometimes, like, say, if I would join the tour, I would just be doing one part. I wouldn't be a swing.
Yeah.
But sometimes I would join the tour as a swing, or sometimes I would come back to Broadway in one part, you know. Um, so yeah, I
Amazing.
became,
Yeah.
yeah,
And was it also internationally or only or national?
only well, I went to Canada twice with the tour. So, but I didn't go, that was the only international trip I took. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Vancouver. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise it was just in the States. Hawaii.
And why did you decide to leave or to stop? Because it was 13 years, right? Lion King.
Yeah.
How
But
did?
those 6 years, I had like time when I was off,
Yeah. Oh, okay.
a lot
Yeah.
of time when I was off and on, off and on. It wasn't like, actually, it just kind of like tapered off. It
Yeah.
wasn't like, I don't want to do this anymore. But, it became less frequent that I would say yes. And then also, it's really hard on your body.
Yeah.
Let's not,
Yeah.
it's very hard because I wasn't, in some cases, say maybe I was dancing a little bit during those breaks, but the stop and start of it all can feel very abrupt, and it's like
Yeah.
sometimes you don't have a lot of notice. Like if I had a lot of notice, if I knew next month I'm going in, then I can get myself back. I would work to get back in shape. But if they say, can you come in 2 days or 3 days, then it's like I'm trying to get back in shape while I'm performance shape, let's say,
Yeah.
while I'm performing. So um it just, I think as I started to do more things during those down times, there was less space for me to go back. And then also my body was like, girl,
Girl.
I
Yeah.
think I think we're good.
Good. And so you transitioned into
Yeah.
becoming more of a director.
Hmm.
So enjoy. Where you're at now as, an educator, as a director, as, having a company with your partner together, your blackness, how does
Yeah.
that play a part in all of that now?
It is the main character, I think, because I cannot separate. There is no separation from my blackness or my womanness and my artistry. Like we are all, you know, wrapped up together. Um, but I think I find myself trying to avoid the tropes. Like if I have a feeling or if I have an instinct or an impulse to say something or to advocate, I'm like, oh, am I going to be perceived as being angry or disgruntled or perpetual in the perpetual state of, I don't know, just being disagreeable? I have decided not to edit myself. I know that many people cannot change their process. They cannot change their budgets. They cannot, in the middle of things. However, when things are rigid, we can sort of like figure out, well, how do we become like water? If you're steel, metal, immovable concrete, we're gonna still have to figure out where those cracks are, so that we can move around it. And sometimes it means adjusting what the agreement is, not signing the agreement, choosing not to do it at all. The thing that's been on me all day today is the idea of how we care for each other, how we celebrate each other as Black people, how we love those like moments when we really see each other, when we clock each other, when we have that knowing, you know what I mean? That knowing that doesn't require words. And because of that, I think, not unlike how I explained to you about how Cleo Parker Robinson um, took care, like really helped us transition into her company. I think that is part of being a Black woman. I think it
Yeah.
is part of being a member of the Black community in so many ways. We see each other. We know. I think one of the things when I think about being a Black woman, when I think about my interactions with my friends and my interactions with other like artists and dancers and people that I work with, is that we know, like sometimes you don't have to say anything, but you can tell that someone is not right. They're not all right. That something is off, or that something made them feel a certain way, because we're very, I mean, at least the people in my life are very expressive too, right? And their energy is very strong. And so you can tell when somebody's energy is depleted. And so I think it's the extra, it's the work. It's part of the work of existing, I guess, in my body, is being attuned to that, knowing I'm attuned to that, and feeling called to not ignore it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure. You
Yeah.
know, and if I think if we can make our days, our spaces, our processes more painless for each other, we're also doing that for ourselves, and we're also doing that for the people that come behind us.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. So again, sort of like not only what's best for me, for us, but also for the future, for the next generation, for the people around us, for the smaller people, the younger people, and the older people. It's beautiful. Communal.
Yeah, I mean, that's how things change. People say, well, can you just do it this one time? And I'm like, if we do it just this one time and we have these younger dancers who we've been saying, it has to be like this, stand up for yourself, we won't do it for less than this or whatever, then they're going to be like, oh, it's okay to do it. And
Yeah.
then that's how things stay the same. That's how you maintain the status quo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm more interested in disrupting that, not to tear it down,
No.
but to make enough of a break to say, hey, I think there's another way that we can close this here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It
Or
may
like,
be a longer path.
yeah, longer path or whatever, less performant, whatever, there's a way you can figure it out. Or say goodbye and this is not for us at this moment. And
Hmm.
there's enough beauty and whatever, not being afraid, right? Also,
Yep.
you with your own company, not being afraid then to say no to an opportunity, whereas somebody else might think, but you cannot say no to any. Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
then also, I think people are, I don't want to speak, I try not to speak for other people, but it seems like a reasonable assumption that humans are very comfortable with people that reflect their experiences back to them. And if the people that are in most positions of power as it relates to presenting your work, getting support for your work, and all of those things, I'm not reflecting that their experience back to them. They're not reflecting my experience back to me. I wonder if that has anything to do with disparities that we see in the landscape of whose work is presented, where is the work presented, how is it presented. And it just, I know a lot of Black people. I know a ton of Black people, right? So if I'm thinking, if I have an opportunity to share, chances are it's gonna go to one of them, right? If
Yeah.
they're,
Yeah.
and so it stands to reason that the same thing applies for people that do other types of work, right? And if that is the case, if we're going to say that is a plausible argument, then I think being Black and being a Black woman also has something to do with the number and type of opportunities I'm seeing for my work, to present work, to direct work, to be in a conversation that is happening when I am not present, right? By people in rooms talking about who's doing what, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So, and yeah, that is another thing,
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
think about. And then there's also the content conversation. What do I want to make work about? What do we want to make work about? And is that work that the majority of audience members will feel good after they experience it? Speaking about, yes, there is an ecosystem that involves people buying tickets and sitting in seats, right? Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it too. And then am I going to not make a piece about something that's pulling me, and try to I cannot make anything that I don't feel called to make. So I can't sit here and try to dream up something that the majority of audience members or potential ticket buyers are going to like, because I
No,
don't know what that is. Right.
you
And
make what you
so,
want to share. You give your.
yeah,
Are you there as a producer, director that you dare, quote unquote, to make what you want to share? Like I always use that example that Samuel Beckett, he would stand in the wings of his plays and he would only be happy if people would also walk away and hate it. Because he was so particular about, no, what I make, not everybody can like it. He would like literally get offended if everybody liked his work. Is that a freedom you feel too now where you are at in your career? Like you are not afraid to make what you want to share?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I have so many people. I am walking along the continuum of so many Black people
Yeah.
that have made work that made me feel like this is what I want to dedicate my life to doing. And so it would be rude and disrespectful not to do that. You know what I mean? And also it's not aligned with what I want my legacy to be, like how I want to be remembered. I don't want to try to like do things. I don't know. I just want to be as truthful as I possibly can. And I love the little, it doesn't have to be presented on a Broadway stage for me. As long as people see it and they respond to it and whether they like it or not, I do think it's valuable when people don't like it. I
Yeah.
do think it's valuable when people, as long as people have conversations about it and like feel called to think deeply about it. You know what I mean? I think it's worth it. Like, I, I feel like what I'm interested in is making work that sparks something in people, a
Yeah.
strong feeling, a visceral reaction. Talk about it, think about it, write about it, whatever it is. You don't have to like it.
No.
You know what I mean? And I also think we should be allowed to fail. We should be able to make so much that
Yes.
some of it is just not good. And I
Or me,
think that's okay.
yeah, or even be mediocre, like so many white
Yeah.
men can be just mediocre white men. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And like making something that doesn't work and putting it out is on that pathway to making the thing that's great. And I think
Yes.
it's like this.
Yeah.
Something clicks, something doesn't, and it goes like this. And I welcome that whole journey. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
I just want to do, I'm not saying I just want to do what I want to do, but I am saying I just want to do what I want to do.
Yeah, you want to make what you want to make, and that is also
Yeah.
in development. Now,
Hmm.
Torya, I want to thank you so much for this conversation. I've learned so much about, aligning yourself with who you really are, getting to really know yourself as a woman, as a Black woman, and everybody can learn from that. I've learned so much about believing the lessons you were taught about, the women who loved you and who celebrated you in your life. I've learned so much about community and the beauty of that. Also remembering again, like, yeah, failures are also learning moments and can also be beautiful moments at the same time. I've learned that from you. And yeah, I learned what I think is so beautiful, like you said, finding your own stage. And that doesn't have to be that stage or broad or whatever, can be like, yeah, like a small stage or doesn't matter. And it's you're in development. We're in
Yes.
development.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Torya. Thank you so much. Have an amazing, beautiful month and a beautiful day. And thank you for being my first guest in this series.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. Happy
Wonderful.
Happy Black History Month again. Have a great month. And
Yes.
thank you for this work. Thank you for what you're doing. It's very valuable.
Oh, thank you.
We
Oh,
need you.
yes, no, we need to be. So before I let you go, please tell us where can people see you? I mean, I put everything also in a newsletter, but not everybody
Uh-huh.
reads it. So tell people where the best way to find you, see your work, or connect with you.
My website probably, toryabeard.com. I also have a redirect from another one. It's thatgirl006.com, goes to the same
Yes.
website.
Yes.
That's the best way to. I'm not that big on social media, but my Instagram handle is thatgirltoria. And if I'm doing anything, I do actually post a lot about my upcoming projects on Instagram.
On Instagram and on your website.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
mostly after it's done on my website. But yeah, you can email me, like you can connect with me on my website. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.